Hi guys, here we go with our section 2B, our swimming swans. This is the design we have drawn up for our swimming swans, and we're going to start today with the swan skirt. This is me, I'm Katrina, and I'm the designer, so I'm here to work you through this costume making experience. So here we have a roll of fabric lining. This is the fabric we're going to use as the underskirt of our tutu style skirt. So this is folded over fabric, so you can cut two templates at the same time. Just make sure your edges are fairly well matched up at the edges. If not, just move your template around. So this is the template that you will receive. You can either cut this out while the template is laying down on top of the fabric, or you can draw around it and cut it after you've moved the template away. I'm just going to go straight in with cutting while the template is on the table. This fabric is straight off the roll, so it's nice and flat and won't really move around. So it's pretty easy to give a rough cut, because a rough cut is really all you need for this kind of style costume. And a good scissors. So as you can see, I'm cutting around, about a centimetre, maybe a little over a centimetre bigger than the template that we're using. So if you're cutting two at the same time, it makes this process a lot faster. So that's our circle cut, and we're going to make two different sizes in these skirts. So this is a template for a larger waistband here. We'll direct you as to which one of these you're going to use when you are cutting out your waistband, your centre waistband. Either way, you can cut this centre circle out first, and then you can lay your bigger one if you need to afterwards. And we're also going to need to cut a little split in the back. That's just what I was pointing to there. So you're going to cut your centre circle out. Again, you can cut these two at the same time if your fabric's not moving around too much. You can also pin the pieces in place if you don't want them to move around. If you have a hoodie with the toggles hanging down in your way, it might be an idea to get rid of them before you cut them off by accident. Do as I say and not as I do, obviously. So just cutting this out as neat as possible in the centre circle. We'll be adding the waistband to this afterwards. So there's your two circles cut. So you're just going to need to put that split down the back that I was talking about. This is just to allow you to get these skirts over hips and bums, and your waist is always smaller than the hips and the bums. So that's just a general size, doesn't really need to be anything in particular. So that's the beginning part of your pattern cut. The next thing you want to do is hem the outside of these and hem that little split at the back. So you want to leave a gap at the back. Always leave it at the back of where you've cut the split in the skirt, and it's just easy to locate. And then you're going to sew all around the edges, and you will have these little puckers as you're going along, and that's totally fine. All I've done is run a zigzag stitch and a single fold. That's all you need for these skirts. Afterwards, you're going to do the same thing, a single zigzag stitch, and add a nice waistband in the center. These waistbands will come to you pre-cut, I think. And again, you don't really have any pieces coming off the edges because you've done a zigzag stitch there to stop all your little threads from coming off. So once your skirt is hemmed and you've got the waistband stuck on, you're going to use a fibre rod to feed through this skirt. Now the fibre rods are made of fiberglass, so they have all these little kind of sticky ends on them. Once they're cut, these kind of little frayed ends, they get stuck in your skirt as you're trying to feed the fibre rod inside. So that's why I'm putting a little bit of masking tape on the tip of your fibre rod as you're feeding it through. So the masking tape just allows it to slide really easily. So it's just masking tape. It could be sellotape, be a little bit of gaffer tape. I find masking tape the best, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of that on there. So find your gap at the back of your skirt and start to feed your little fibre rod through. Now the fibre rods you'll be using are a little bit thinner than the one I'm using, so it'll be easier to manipulate that around into a circle. My one's also split in half, as you can see there, but you'll be getting yours in one continuous piece of about 2.5 meters. So you'll just feed that through, might wrestle with it a little bit before you get the hang of it. You can see I always push it against my body. It's probably one of the easiest ways to kind of keep control of it. And push that fibre rod through all the way as much as possible. And then feed that little end in, out of the way. And slide that along and then slide the opposite one in. I'm just going to have to keep going until you get the whole thing inside. So once you're pretty much all in, you will have one little piece sticking out, just there. So you're going to want to tape that one closed. So the reason we leave such a big gap at the back of the skirt in the hem is so that you can manage to feed this tape inside. Because you won't get your fingers through there if you don't leave a big enough gap. So you're going to have to wrap that around quite tightly so that it doesn't pop out. And that is your little skirt complete, your little underskirt. So the next thing we're going to do is get our dress net ready to put over the top. So the dress net comes folded over already, so it's very easy to make a little channel to put through our elastic. We're also going to end up putting a channel at the bottom as well, which is a wee bit more difficult because they're two open spaces, or two open pieces like that. So we'll have to fold that over to run that one through, but the top hem is a lot easier to make that little channel. So you're just going to run that through the machine in a single stitch. It can even be like a really wide stitch, that's no problem. And you're just going to pop that through and make about a 1-inch channel. Doesn't really need to be any bigger, certainly no smaller, because you're going to want to get a big safety pin through there with your elastic band. So run that through the machine all the way to the end of your dress net. You'll be directed in your Word document how much dress net you need for each skirt. I think it's either 3 or 4 meters per skirt, so you have that pre-cut and then run them through the machine to make your little channels for your elastics to go through. Okay, so just continue until you're done. So then you're going to do your end, the bottom bit. So that's always a wee bit more tricky because this fabric's going to want to move a wee bit on you. So just do your best to get a channel into it. It can be any kind of a channel. This part is actually going to be hidden underneath the skirt anyway, so you don't have to be so neat with this one. The other one is the waistband. This one is the underneath band that goes underneath your skirt. So once that's complete, you will need 2 elastic bands. You'll need one kind of smallish one that's going to go around your waist, and then the other one is going to go around the underneath of the skirt. So this smaller one is going to go on your neater hem that you've made, which is the one with the natural fold in it that the fabric has come. You're going to use a really large safety pin and you're going to push that elastic band through all the way till you get to the end. Now, because you're using such a small elastic, you're going to want to secure the end of your elastic so that it doesn't pull all the way through. So you'll get another, either a pin or a safety pin, and just pop that onto the end of your skirt like that so that it doesn't pull all the way through, and then that's going to stop that. It's going to keep that secure. So you just pop all the way through until you get to the very end of your dress net. So this is after we've fed that elastic all the way through. This is your waistband. And we're just spreading out that dress net to make it sit really nicely. Now we need to start with our bottom hem. So just to clarify, the length of the elastic that you'll need, the elastic for the waist is the same width of the dress net fabric after you've sewn it. So you can measure that really easily, and then the one that you're putting on the bottom here, like I'm putting, is twice the width of the dress net fabric. That's probably the easiest way to measure those, and then we can tie them to the right size afterwards, particularly with the waist. Again, we don't know what age kids or size kids are going to use these, so we just have to kind of do a general waist size. So this elastic's fairly long, as you can see, so that's twice the width of the dress net fabric, and I'm pinning that end again just to make sure that that doesn't pop through. That would drive you mad if that happens. It's happened to me many a time, so I've learned my lesson. So you're just going to feed that all the way through until you get to the end, and then kind of just fix the dress net so that it's nice and evenly dispersed. So once you're finished with that, you are going to tie off that waistband, the underneath one rather. So you're just going to tie that in a knot just so that we can get it tidied off. There we go. So I have added to the mannequin the little dress already, the little underskirt rather, and it has its little fibre rod in it, so it's ready to receive this. If you haven't received your fibre rods, don't worry about it. These can be all put together afterwards, because it's literally just going to sit over the top of the skirt. I'm going to pop that underneath, and it's a really simple tutu style, I suppose. You wouldn't really call it a tutu, but it's just like a style, an easy style to do, so you're not fiddling with cotton dress net and stuff like that. So just fixing that along, and that is basically your little dress done. So now we're going to move on to our swan backpack. This is a foam backpack in the shape of a swan, with your arms coming out the sides. So here's a list of what you need for this. So you'll receive the template for your swan, and you're literally just going to fit that into your foam in a really nice way. You're just going to put those edges right to the edges of the foam so that we can fit as many swans in as possible. We're always mindful of getting the best out of the foam. So I'm using a ballpoint pen here, and I'm just doing a double check to make sure that that is working. Ballpoint pen is probably the easiest way to make a mark on foam, but sometimes it just doesn't want to function, so you just need to double check that as you go. So flip your swan around and do the same thing again. The two should fit in perfectly. This foam is 1 meter wide, so you should fit the two swans in, and you'll fit 6 of these templates in one sheet of foam, which will end up being 3 swans. So there we go, that is our templates drawn out. So now you're going to cut these out with a blade. So please be very careful when you're cutting with the blade. Make sure your hands are not in the direction of the blade when you're cutting. So the first thing I'm going to do is rough cut this, because you don't want to be working on such a large sheet of foam. So you're just going to rough cut it, not too big, the rough cut, and keep it pretty close to the template, and just pop that off. And that's a much easier size to work with for doing the fiddly cuts around the curves and the face of the swan and stuff. So rough cut those all out, and we'll be ready to go around those now. So you can see I've made my blade quite long, which you need to make sure that you can really see where you're going. That's why we use these kind of blades, the ones with the short little top on them, and you kind of can't really see what you're doing. So just double check it, take off pieces that you don't need, double check that your blade is not creating little puckers in the foam as you're cutting. If that happens, if it's kind of pulling, then it means that your blade is ready to change. Foam, even though it's a soft material, it blunts the blades very, very quickly. And so for cutting these swans, you need to make sure that you either have a cutting mat, or as you can see there on my table, I just have a sheet of hardboard, which is absolutely great for cutting. So just a bit by bit, following those lines. The curves are always a wee bit harder, especially small curves like the inside the armhole there. So just taking our time. And you can see I move the foam an awful lot when I'm cutting. I'm not trying to stick to the lines in the way that the foam was sitting on the table first. So I just move that foam around to make it as easy as possible for me to cut. So I just wedge my finger in there to push that foam out, because when you get an awkward little corner, if you push the foam away, it gives you more control and it lets you cut a little easier. The head is a tricky little bit. If you can try to be really careful with cutting the head properly, because we're going to join 2 sheets of these foam swans together. So if your heads are not cut well, they won't match, and it'll just make it a bit harder for you when it comes to sticking them. So that's the particular one. The heads would be the most important. So you should have a very smooth edge on your foam as you're cutting. So you'll see here now that I'm going to move this foam quite a lot when I'm cutting this circle. It's always a little bit more tricky to get those little curves done. And that's it. That is our little circles done. So you'll do that for all of your swans. However many swans you're making, you'll need two templates, 2 swan figures per 1 costume. So you will also receive the swan face, and it's a little template. You've got 3 parts in this template. Really, you only need 2, so you don't need the middle one because you're drawing the lines by using 2 templates, not 3. So you can just discard the middle one. I'm just sticking it on there to show you, but you can just discard that one. So they fit together quite nicely on the face. So just get rid of this one. You don't need that one. And then you're just going to take your ballpoint pen and you're just going to trace that around. And that's for you to guide, just to guide you to paint these afterwards. So you're only drawing in that center. You're not drawing anything at the back of the head of the swan there, because that's all white. It's written on the templates anyway, what color they're going to be. So draw those around and pop those to one side. And that's your swan face drawn on. Now here we go with sticking the 2 faces together. And this is what I mean by if you don't have your swan faces cut really well, you're going to struggle to get them matched up. So we're just going to glue from the beak. We're not gluing the head, we're just basically gluing the beak and spreading that glue out loads, because if you don't spread it out loads, what's going to happen is you're going to sandwich that 2 pieces together and the glue will pour out the edges and catch your fingers. So spread it out really good and press that down. You'll have to hold that for, I guess, a few seconds until that is completely dried in. Now what you can do is paint these faces before you add them together. That is 100% your choice. I would choose to paint them afterwards, only because I guess too many times in my career I have painted the wrong sides, because you're going to have opposites here. So if you paint the wrong sides, then you're going to be left with having to repaint them again. So I always leave it to the end. But that's just me. So you choose what is good for you. So to give these a bit of extra security, we are going to add a little strip of foam. This is like children's foam that you'd buy in a craft shop. It's super thin. And we're just going to make a little piece. So I just measured that there, and that's 2 centimeters wide. I'm just going to cut a strip 2 centimeters wide to go over that part of the beak. So I'm just scoring that down first, and then I'm going to cut it. You could cut it straight with, if you have a metal ruler, you could cut that straight without making the line. So there we have our little strip ready to put on. So we're just starting right at that line where your template finished, and that should go all the way around with a little bit of excess. So you'll cut off your excess when you're done. So again, this, you need to be really careful to spread your glue out really well. If anything, just get the glue in the middle bits where your two foams are meeting. Try to stay away from the edges because you don't really need to get the glue all the way to the edges. And you're just going to do a little bit at a time so that you don't go wrong. So press that down and hold that in place until that is fully secure and dry. Then flip your little foam back. And again, I'm just doing the middle bits there. I'm not going all the way out to the edges. And just pop that down. And I'm just going to go all the way to the end here. Spreading that glue out really well. And fold that over and then push it into place. You just tell it where to go. Now for this one you're going to have to hold for a little bit longer than I'm doing here. Because it's on a curve, it's going to want to pop up. You can see at the tip of the beak there, I have to squeeze that down again. And just hold that in place until that is secure. Sometimes takes a while. Depends how hot your glue gun is really. So once you're happy with that, we can move on. It's pretty secure there. So now we're going to do the same at the back of our swan. So we're going to get his tail stuck together. So you'll receive a template there and you will see it's written on so you don't get completely confused as to how to put this template down. So you're just going to pop that template down and draw that little line. Just move your swan out of the way. Draw that little line. And that is where you're going to glue your two backs of your swan together. Just be careful here because your swan is going to want to get quite in your way. So plenty of glue on this. Spreading that all out really well. Again, not going near the edges, you can see, because that glue is going to spread itself out once you sandwich the other piece on top anyway. And then you're going to place that down. Try to get it as matched as best as you can. Now you might have gone wonky on your cutting there, but it's really not super important. We're going to do the same with this as we did with the beak anyway. We're going to put a little edge over it, so just to keep it from coming apart. So here's a little strip of white foam. So we're going to do the exact same from where our glue is stuck together. You wouldn't do this now until this is very dry and you know that's not going to pull apart. I'm going to do this bottom bit and we're going to do the top bit. So just seeing where the glue ends there, I'm going to start there. Give it a little line so you don't go wrong. Here we go, just glue again right in the join of the two pieces of foam. And get that spread out really nice. Again, avoiding the edges. Just save your hands. And press that down. Now you could measure this foam if you want first, so that you know exactly the size that you're going to put on. That's totally fine. I made mine really long and then I just trimmed it off there. I know we're a little bit off camera, but I just trimmed off that edge that we didn't need. So there you go, that's a little edge trimmed off. So this is just a security measure so that your swan doesn't pull apart. That's really the purpose of this. So same on the top. Again, you could pre-measure this if you like. It's probably a better idea to pre-measure it actually. your foam's not going to move around so much on you otherwise. So just making sure that is stuck really well, and that is your swan secured. So now, using your template, we're going to show you where you would put the straps of the swan on. So it'll be written on your template. You have a little section there. Give that a little mark inside so that you don't go wrong. And do that on both sides. Now you can pop your arm over the tail, get that out of the way, very handy. And you will get Lycra, which is great for tying, and we're going to use the Lycra to tie these swans closed. So you would just place that down, make sure that that is fitting quite nice. So you lay it down exactly where you want it to go. You could pin this in place if you like, leave that little square on the inside, and then just get your glue on where your fabric was sitting. Let that sit on top. Now again, you can use a bit of foam to dab this down so that you don't hurt your hands. The Lycra won't let the glue through so easily, so there's not much chance of the glue coming through, but it will be quite warm. Make sure that's stuck really well. So you would do this on both your armhole circles. So I'm just marking where that is matching on the other side. Let's go ahead and glue that one then as well. You can do this a little bit at a time if you prefer. I just went straight in and did all the glue at the one time. Now, the little armholes that you cut out earlier, we're using them as a security again so that these do not come apart. So we're just going to pop the glue around the edge, right over the fabric too. Again, this is just a security so that if the kids are doing rehearsals and pulling on these really tightly, that they don't rip the straps off. So we're just going to guide that around. This you'll have to take your time with, and you could pin this on first if you like, or you can just go straight into it. And you're going to leave that little square there. You're going to take a little tip off of it, and you're going to fold that over onto the piece you've just added. So that gives your fabric 2 points of contact on foam, so there's a lot less chance of that being ripped off. So make sure that's glued down. Now use your foam for dabbing that down, not your fingers like I did, because there's definitely more chance of your hands getting caught there with the glue. So that's really secure. So just continue then, send this around the top, because right there where the neck is joined into the arm is also a little point of contact that would have a chance of ripping. So right underneath my left hand there, that would be a weak joint in this swan. So that's just giving it a little bit of extra security there. Now I didn't glue the beginning, so I'm just going to get that little bit down there as well. We don't need to do the back bit, but that little kind of C shape is the best security we can give it. So once you've got your straps on both sides and you have painted your swan face, this is what the finished product will look like along with its skirt. So your swimming swan is ready for the ballet.